On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a highly anticipated special treat. She's a New York Times bestselling author of the instant classic, How Are You Really? Host of the Gold Digger podcast, generating nearly 2 million downloads a month, educator, creator, speaker, and photographer, just to name a few. At age 23, she invested in a $300 camera on Craigslist. She didn't know it at the time, but that would be her ticket to leaving her corporate job and reinventing herself as a successful, multifaceted entrepreneur and empire builder. No big deal. Her ability to help women harness the power to take control of their lives, to bust the myth of balance, to show the dreamer that starting a business is closer than you think, and to shine a spotlight on the glorious truths so we can all find our way back to a life that is truly our own is second to none. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific wife and mother. Please welcome the dynamic, abundant, and curious, the beautiful and brilliant Jenna Kutcher. How you doing, Jenna?
Gosh, I need to play that intro every morning when I get out of bed. I will feel like I can take over the world. Thank you so much, Greg.
My pleasure. We were having so much fun. We're having a really awesome conversation before we record. Probably could have chatted for 3 hours. At some point, we should probably save this juicy stuff for the show.
Yes.
But the good part for me is it's just the beginning of the friendship. For our audience and listeners now, we're about 5 million. In case you're not familiar, my best suggestion is do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the awesome stuff Jenna has going on, her book, her new courses, all the things. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
I'm ready.
What is your superpower, Jenna?
Ooh, my superpower is showing up as my whole self, no matter what room I enter. So not compartmentalizing the quirks, the passions, and the roles that I play.
Yeah. Was that always natural for you, or is that something you had to work on?
I think it was natural. I was just thinking the other day about a quote that my English teacher in high school gave me when I graduated, and it was about marching to the beat of my own drum. And I feel like I've always had this layer of confidence that is the undercurrent of showing up however I am, in whatever identity I am, fully as myself without apologizing. And so I feel like it's both a skill that has been honed, but also one that has been innate.
That's really beautiful. And it's really relatable to me because if I'm being honest, for 35 years, I was not that cat. In fact, I was more a people pleaser and I was Wall Street and I was in the wrong relationships. And I would show up based upon what I thought the world wanted to see from me. And then when I reinvented myself and I started CLS and the personal brand and all that stuff, there was no guarantee of success, but I made one guarantee to myself. That for the first time in my life, I would show up as the real, raw, authentic Craig Siegel. And I understand that won't be for everybody, but the right people will gravitate and the wrong people will go away. And if I fail, which I don't think I will, at least I fail being myself. And ironically, the more strange, weird, and vulnerable I show up as, the more the world began to see me.
Yes, I love this. I love it. And I think that so many of us want to connect to other humans, right? Like we want to share that human experience. There's so much power in saying, me too, like I'm not alone. And I think so much of the world these days is painting like the shiny, the unattainable, the perfection. And it's like, where is the progress? Like, where is the mess? Like, I don't know about you, but my life is messy too. And so I love that. I'm excited for you.
Yeah. And also it's very liberating, right? Because you don't have to hide things. And just to be clear for the audience, like pick and choose, like you don't have to showcase every single part of you, but when you do showcase the real you, like you have nothing to hide. You have nothing to think about, like, did I say this or how am I supposed to act? And then ironically, like the right opportunities and doors begin to open based upon the person that you are and are becoming.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. There's so many cool places that we can take this conversation. I want to talk about the awesome stuff that you have going on right now. But one thing I wanted to hit you with, just selfishly, I know the audience is going to love it too, is you talk about the woo and you talk about meeting the woo with the work. And I think that's so powerful and responsible, for lack of better words. And there's a lot of people that are all woo, and some people, like the old Craig, are like all practical. But you do such a beautiful job of combining them and make it digestible. But for the audience, what do you mean when you say where the woo meets the work?
Yes. Oh, I love this. So you kind of touched on it, Greg. Like this world is so polarizing these days. And I think so much of what we see is meant to divide us instead of bridge us together. And I feel that way specifically as a woman entrepreneur and even more so as a mom, where I feel like there are camps like, how do you sleep train your kid? What do you feed your kid? Like, it's like this very polarizing place we find ourselves in. And I often find myself in the shades of gray. I don't necessarily subscribe fully to one side or the other. And I really feel that, especially with entrepreneurship, of this hustle culture. And then there's the manifestation side. There's the people that are like, wake up earlier, work harder, do more, never stop showing up. And then there's the people that are like, just say that you want $1 million and it'll come. And
Mm.
I live in the middle of both of those things. I think that having these visions for your life is a really powerful way to move in the right direction. But the key word is move. You've got to be moving. You've got to stay in motion. And so it was really interesting when I was writing my book. I remember asking my publisher, why me? Why this message? Why this book? And she had said to me, you live where the woo meets the work. You subscribe to this idea of the visions and manifesting, but you also are willing to lace up your shoes and start moving towards it on your own. And so I love inviting people to kind of step into the middle and be willing to contradict themselves, because I think contradiction shows that you're evolving and you're learning and you're growing. And I love that.
I think that's the most beautiful thing I ever heard. And it's
Oh,
so good. Like when you can combine, take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that, and make it
yeah.
your own, you find like this, I don't know about the word balance, but like you find what works for you. And
Yeah.
like calling it in and energy and vibrations, I'm really big on that too. But at some point, there's got to be a little bit of intention and strategy, right?
Yes.
And tactics that goes
Yes.
along with the vibrational match stuff. And
Yeah.
it's got to marry the two for sure.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you said it's not the word balance, because I often struggled with the word balance, especially as a mom of young kids. Everyone was talking about balance. And when I actually took the time to study the word and the origin of the word, balance is meant to be a moment in time. It's not meant to be a state that's maintained. And so many of us feel like we're failing at this idea, this notion of balance, because we're trying to maintain something that's not attainable. And so I always think about it as the perfect blend in my life. What is the right blend of the black and the white? How do we find the right blend of the gray? And that's where I like love to call people into that space of like, what does it look like to like be your whole self, to be both a wife and an entrepreneur, or a CEO and a mother? Like, how do you bring in all the facets of yourself and do it with confidence? Because I think people get a way different experience of who you are and what you're capable of.
Yeah, I love this. And also, I'm so big on doing what you love for a
Yeah.
career and a
Yes.
life. And when you are as well, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you lean into that, like the word balance doesn't have the same effect anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to take such a break from your job because you genuinely love this stuff, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is too good. Um, I wanted to ask you, I know that you're very often vocal about your ADHD
Yeah.
journey, and a lot of people have that. And I don't want to say struggle because
Yeah.
you kind of made it into almost to a superpower. It seems like, and I think a lot of people have that, but when they think about it, it becomes in their mind a crutch,
Yes.
but not for you. How are
Yeah.
you able to kind of transition the meaning that you give that?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So I wasn't diagnosed until a year ago. And it's really been a wild journey. After I became a mom, my time evaporated, and suddenly I couldn't dedicate 10 hours a day to sitting behind a screen and doing this work. I had to figure out, how do I make sure that if time is my currency, I'm spending it in the places that matter the most, that move the needle the most, whether it's sitting on the floor playing with my child or working on a new email funnel. And when I started to really understand that, like, my brain is not linear, like, I am neurodivergent, I am someone who is easily distractible, but I'm also super passionate and I can get lost in my work for hours upon end. I started to really explore what this was. And it's actually fascinating because I had a guest come on my podcast, the Gold Digger podcast, and I was just interviewing her about ADHD because I was fascinated. And after the end of the recording, she said, you know why I pitched myself for your show, right? And I was like, no, why? And she's like, you 100% have ADHD. I had no idea. I had gone through the entire interview just being fascinated by this topic. And here she was like, I have followed your work for so long, the different strategies that you have to do in order to achieve the level that you've achieved are very evident that you have ADHD. And so it's been amazing. And I think for so many listeners, there's something in your life that you've been told is a hindrance or is this limiting aspect of your life that will limit what is possible for you. But I think that the more that you get to know yourself and love yourself and respect yourself and honor the way that you were built and the way that you were created and the way that only you can show up, the more that you start to see that like this isn't something that will paralyze me, it's only going to catapult me further. I just have to honor and respect myself in the way that I do things in a way that allows me to feel liberated in my work and not limited by it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's interesting that you weren't necessarily diagnosed with it, but now that
Yeah.
you,
Oh, now I am. Now I am. After that episode, I was like, let
but
me get
not until
this.
a year ago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not until a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you have awareness, you can kind of transform from reactive to proactive. Good for
Yep. Yep.
you. For the audience that might not be able to see you right now, and of course we're gonna post the video too, but you're looking pretty lean and mean. I know.
Thank you.
Oh
I'm
my
getting
goodness.
strong.
I know you
Uh,
are. I know you
yeah.
are. And I know it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Where are you at right now with it? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, Craig, because I feel like I had told myself this lie for a long time, for nearly a decade of like, I can either take care of myself or take care of my business. And there was no really gray area there. I was healthy by many standards, but I also wasn't prioritizing my health. And after I had my second daughter and after we had been through a fertility journey and all of these different transitions in my own life and with my own body, I really felt like I needed to come home to myself and I wanted to prioritize this one word for myself, which was the word vibrant. And I was in a similar season that you are finding yourself in as I was about to launch a book. I had a 6-month old, a book that was about to be born into the world. And I knew that life was going to ask a lot of me and I wanted to do all things well. And in order to do things well, I needed to have the energy to fuel the dream, right? And so I started just prioritizing how do I energize myself and what does that look like and how do I take care of myself? And really the ambition of it was to feel better, to feel good, to like show up and be energized and be vibrant. And it's been amazing. Like the outward transformation is what most people see, but like the inner transformation and even the shift in identity of how I identify now as a healthy person and the healthiest version of myself has been so transformative. Like I often find myself wondering, like, if I would have had this amount of energy a decade ago when I started this business, what could I have done? But I also think I have just this deep respect of the journey that I've been through that has been fueled by loving myself and not loathing myself. But now I've just loved myself to a very healthy and strong version of myself.
Hell yeah. And you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and you can improve, right? That's
Yes.
the beauty of it.
Yes.
We wouldn't have changed anything because it brought you to where you are now and all the
Yeah.
lessons for it. But
Yeah.
isn't it so awesome and fascinating? Like with fitness and taking care of yourself, like it's not so much about the physicality. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great to look good, but when you're working out and you're taking care of yourself and you're connecting and you get the endorphins going, and it's like it's symbolic as to other areas of life. Like if you could stay disciplined, it shows that you love yourself a little bit more because you're respecting your body and taking care of it. And that translates into all areas of life, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's really interesting because I have been like a self-love advocate for years. Like I've talked about my relationship with my body and how it impacts how I show up. There's this line in my book that says like the way you show up for battle is linked to the type of warrior you believe you are. And I think that for a long time in my life, like I was really proud of my curves and the strength that I'd found throughout this whole journey of becoming a mom. And what's really interesting now is like I am so proud of like seeing my lab results improve or like doing blood work and like seeing like, wow, this change in my sleep has impacted this in a beautiful way and seeing how interconnected it is. And one trait that I love about my ADHD is that when I get interested in something, I can go really deep on it. And so I get so focused. So like I'm like listening to all these podcasts and just learning so much about it. Like I feel like I'm getting a PhD in health because now it's like something that's so fascinating to me. But I do think it's a reminder for so many people that like if you can focus on your health first, everything else is impacted. The way I mother is impacted. Last night, I was chasing my kids around playing Duck, Duck, Goose in the living room. And I had this moment of like, there was a time in my life where I wouldn't have had the energy to do this. And that's just a really huge wake up call of how it can impact every facet of your life, whether it's life, business, marriage, relationships, it's everywhere.
Isn't that so beautiful? Like all of this, specifically, I picture you like chasing around your kids.
Yeah.
My fiance and I, we just got a brand new puppy. And
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
to me, he's not a pet, he's my son.
Yes.
And you saying, but just spending time, the moments and all that, but also having the energy, and it's a full-time job. I have a feeling it's
Yes.
going to be good practice for the kitties.
Yes. It's great practice.
You have pets too? A
Yeah,
dog?
we have a dog. Yes, and our dog is sometimes more work than our children. So you are in for it. You're doing good. Training
Yeah.
in session.
Yeah, I would introduce you, but right now he's a little occupied and I don't want to
Yeah.
disturb that. But
Yeah.
maybe after. But this I'm so proud of you because I've been watching your
Thank you.
journey, and everyone I would highly suggest checking out Jenna's content immediately following this episode. And one of the things you showcase often is being in the sauna.
Yeah.
I,
Every day.
yeah, I love it too.
Every day.
Yeah, what are some of the benefits you get from that?
Yeah, well, so I live, for context, I live in Duluth, Minnesota. We are a very Scandinavian bunch up here. So I grew up, we call it sauna, which is the Finnish pronunciation. And my grandpa's name is Sulo. He's 100% Finnish. And so I grew up like this was a part of our culture. Like we would go to grandma and grandpa's house, we would go in the sauna. In the winter, we would run into the snow and roll around in the snow and then run back in. So we were doing like heat and cold exposure as children. But for me, it's dual purpose. I do it every afternoon. It's kind of the time of day where I used to get really tired and want to take a nap, and now I get really energized. But a lot of times I'll listen to a podcast or put some music on. I'll go in, I'll do heat exposure, and then we also have a cold plunge. So then I do cold exposure every single day. There's energy benefits, there's immunity benefits, there's so many benefits to it. And I also just love it too. I mean, it's a really great way to detox your body. Like that's like what I love. I'm like, holy cow, it's amazing.
Do you run at all by any chance?
Yeah, I just actually texted my husband. I was like, after this interview, I'm going to go for a little run. So my husband and I actually ran full marathons. I know that you just had an amazing race. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we ran a full marathon before we got married, which was 12 years ago, and then after we got married, and then after having kids, running was just not something that sounded good, didn't feel good. And so recently I got back into running and I am like getting really excited about it again.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Everyone should have something, I think. But for me,
Yes.
like the big gateway drug, no, like between my season during Wall Street, that was like where I found myself in a dark place, and then
Yeah.
this and going into alignment and all the things. There was a season in between, and that was when I stumbled upon running or did running.
Yeah.
I think it's divine. But I started running so many marathons, and I'd never been a runner before, and it didn't really have much to do with like the physical component. It was just like
Yeah.
that mindset, right? That voice
Yes.
in your head. Like I
Yes.
feel as though if anyone is physically able to put one foot in front of the other, you can run more than you'd think.
Yes.
But it's just like life. Like you have to battle, you have to overcome it, gain confidence, and also you get that natural high. It's just a beautiful, pure sport.
Yeah, it's been fun running again. We have a double stroller, which is no joke. It's like a 50-pound sled push. And my older daughter, who's 4.5, she will often jump out of the stroller and run right next to me. And it's just like so amazing to see how kids are really soaking in their environment and seeing those different priorities and those different transitions. It's been really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So much alignment here. Before we hammer into the awesome stuff that you have going on now, I wanted to ask you because I was also checking out your content again, which I can't recommend enough. And I saw you saying that back while you were building your empire. It took you a
Yeah.
little while. For a while, you were a one-woman show.
Yes.
And I had
Long
this
while.
feeling, yeah. And we're growing rapidly right now and scaling, and I'm hiring and delegating finally. But I had this limiting belief for a while, Jenna. I was like, who's going to wake up as excited about this as I am? And
Yeah.
I just kept doing it all. And then I realized that's a scarce mindset, because the reality is in order to really grow and scale, make more of an impact, you need to
Yeah.
build a team. And also, if I'm being honest, there's people that could do things a lot better than I can that I probably
Yes.
want to do. And
Yes.
so now we're growing and scaling, but it's tough to find great fits.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, what was the mindset for you to make that shift to stop being a one-woman show? And also, how important is your culture for you in your business?
Oh my gosh. So there's a story in my book about how resistant I was, because let me tell you, Craig, I was white knuckling my business very well. And for me, it took life knocking me to my knees to be able to say, I need help. And it came in the form of a virtual assistant. It was my first hire. She had reached out to me 3 prior times. And every time she reached out to me, I said, I'm good. I don't need help. I got this. And the last time that she had reached out to me, we had just gotten the news that we had lost another pregnancy. And I was like, I can't even think about responding to an email right now. Like, I need to be in the fetal position. Nothing matters right now. And I realized that, like, I cannot have a business that cannot run while I rest or while I have a human moment. And so that was like God's way of being like, you're done. Like, you need help. But it's been fascinating. I mean, we have grown a multi-million-dollar business and I only have 5 people on payroll. So we don't have this massive team. Between my contractors and my employees, we have 10 people. And it's pretty small and lean intentionally because I don't want to run a huge company. I didn't start all this to be a boss. I started this to be and have an impact. But what I've had to realize is that I am the visionary and my team is the missionaries. They help me get the mission out there. I set the vision. I am the voice in the face of it. But without them, I could not make the impact that I make. So they can help me in areas that, yes, I could do. And I have done alone. I've played every role in my business from making invoices to creating graphics to writing podcast scripts, everything. But that's not where I shine. And so there are very few places, Craig, that only you can show up in your business. And there are so many opportunities. The final thing that really shifted things for me is that I often think that we think that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And I had to shift that thought and understand that asking for help is the opportunity to give someone else the chance to show their strength. And when I realized that, it shifted everything for me because now I'm no longer weak. I am giving an opportunity for someone to live and lean into their strengths and to show up in the way that only they can add to the world. And so when I had that realization, I'm like, what a blessing to have a team. What a blessing to build something that can support other people and support their dreams in tandem with my own. And so it has just made like team culture and growing a team so fun. I have like the longest standing team. Like nobody leaves. I have people that have been with me for 7 years. Like they will not leave because I want to take care of them like a family, but I also want them to shine in their strengths. And I think that that's huge.
That's so special, and it's a reflection on you, the leader, that they want to stay so long. And I gotta acknowledge you that you are the queen of the reframes.
Yes.
I mean,
I love it.
yeah, that's a paradigm shift. Give them an opportunity to showcase their skill sets.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that is my life is like, I used to be, I don't know if you've ever been like this, Craig. I feel like we have a similar brain, but like, I
Definitely.
used to be like, I can't meditate. Like, I can't be someone who like doesn't think things,
Same.
right? And I've realized that so much of my life is just constantly redirecting and coming back home to myself. And so with reframes, it's often I can't control the first thought, but I can control what follows. And so it's not trying to control the first thought, which is what I think a lot of us do is like, why am I this way? Or why am I thinking this way? Or why am I having this limiting mindset? It's constantly coming back. What is the truth? Who gave me this truth? And what do I believe to be true? And so I love reframing so many things from negative body talk to identity shifting to asking for help. It's like, okay, here's the first thought, but what do I do with that? And what is the next step?
This is so powerful. This is a seven-figure conversation for anyone that applies this. And also, like, thoughts are not facts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you can, and for the audience, like you can challenge your limitations and ask yourself, like, why do I believe this? I wasn't born with it. Is it possible to choose a different story, to
Yep.
invest in a different movie? And then you can go that route and everything opens up.
Yep. I love that. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah. I have to ask you, I know you're probably excited about many things right now,
Yeah.
but you have your best-selling course coming out, the List to Launch Lab. What's the
Yes.
deal with that? And why is it so important for you to help people with what this course has entails?
Yeah. So here's the thing, Craig. I have been talking about email list building and the power of email lists for 7 years. When I first launched my show, I was talking about the power of email marketing way back when nobody was talking about it because I feel like I am watching so many people build businesses, build their dreams, build their content, build their podcasts on the shifting sands of social media, not recognizing that they're building everything on rented space, space that they cannot control and they do not own.
So,
And there is so much power in having this direct line of communication to reach the right people at the right time with the right message. If social media disappeared tomorrow and I lost my million of followers on Instagram, my business would not change all that much because I have this solid foundation. This is the foundation that has allowed me to pivot from photographer to podcaster to author to course creator. And it's also allowed me to take breaks and rest and go on maternity leaves or take the month off while my business is still successfully running behind the scenes. And so I am just so passionate about people building this line of communication and devoting a small amount of the time that they're already spending on their marketing into email marketing. There are so many stats that support this, from the fact that maybe 6% of your Instagram audience even sees what you're sharing, and far fewer than that actually take action on what you're sharing, to the fact that if I were to email you today, Craig, my email would hit your inbox and now you see my name, you see the title, and you get to make the choice. Do I open and engage or do I delete? Either way, you still saw something come in from me. It's a very different experience. And so I'm just like wildly passionate about email marketing and getting the word out for people to build that reliable line of making sales, driving results, but also making a bigger impact.
yeah, this is so key, especially for entrepreneurs, which your big listeners are. And you were so gracious with some of your wisdom. You were giving me some support before we hit record and
Yeah.
launch with the emails and so forth. And like, we're not trying to scare everybody, but the reality is like Instagram could shut down tomorrow, right?
Yep.
That's possible. And
Yep.
then what would somebody do if your business was super reliant on that? So
Yeah.
not only do you want to have a backup plan, but an email is really more than that, because there's just certain things that will never go away no matter what technology comes out. And the email list is something that you own. You can call it yours. And
Yep.
also the way that you've been able to transition and pivot from different industries and different seasons of life, but you still have the same audience. And it's really more like a community, because they
Yes.
hear from you, they get excited about it. And for anyone that really does anything, that's building a personal brand or has something to offer, you should start cultivating an email list yesterday, right?
Yes, it's the number one thing, and anyone that you or I know that is successful and has a lifestyle that really allows them to have freedom likely has an email list behind them fueling their success and fueling their sales. It's really interesting because I think about social media and how it's this churn and burn mentality of like creating, posting, publishing, waiting, creating, posting, publishing, waiting. And there's so much longevity. And we talked about it before, but like I look at time as my currency. And if I want to make sure that I'm spending my time in places that actually moves the needle forward, that actually drives results, an email list is the number one place to spend my time. It has an average return on investment of $42. So that could be like me saying, Craig, give me $1 this morning. And at the end of today, I'll give you $42. You would do it without even questioning, right?
Course.
And so it's just this amazing way where I look at like everything I do has intention and I want it to drive a result. And I
Yeah.
want that result to move me closer to my dreams. And so I just am like so frustrated with people spending their time and energy in the wrong places and not getting the results that they want.
Yeah, so helpful. And I love that you're super intentional and almost like methodical with everything that you do. I'm the same way. Like
Yeah.
everything that you do has a purpose behind it. There's a
Yes.
reason for it.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm at a stage of my life in business, and even with the book launch, like anywhere you see me showing up, I don't have to be there. I'm there because I want to be there, because I actually care to be there. Like I have unlocked more success than I ever dreamed possible. And I love that because it creates this aspect of like, I genuinely care and I want this for you. It's not just reserved for me. And I feel like so many of us, we see people at the top and we don't know what it takes or how they get there or how it works. And I'm like, let's remove the curtains and like, let's get really honest about how this is all working.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I love that you said that. And you're so young. How old are you, if you don't mind me
I'm
asking?
35.
25 years young and just getting
Yep.
warmed up.
Yep.
And it's all because you are audacious, right? And you believe in yourself. And you told me a little bit earlier when I asked you about like authenticity, and it makes perfect sense. It was always kind of your like your DNA, so to speak. And I imagine you always thought really big, even when you bought that camera, like you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Like what a journey, what a
Yeah.
ride. And now you're in a position where you can do whatever feels good for you, whatever
Yep.
impact you want to make. And I'm just curious, because you've done so many things and you've had so much success in different areas. is there something super excited for you in the future that maybe you haven't conquered yet, but something that you're looking forward to?
Oh, I love this question and I struggle with it. I was just out to dinner with my mom and she was like, "So, what's next?" And I was like, for once, I actually don't know and I'm okay with that. And it's really interesting because as a mom to two young kids, I have a 4.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. I just feel like I'm in this season of balancing contentment and peace with ambition and figuring out like what does that look like and how do they coexist? Because I am a deeply ambitious person, but I am also someone who finds so much joy and peace in my everyday life. And it's interesting, Craig, because there'll be days where I'm like, I want to shut this whole thing down. I want to live in the woods and have chickens and raise my children. And then the next day I'm like, I want to be in Times Square and on the Today Show and I want to do this. And it's like, how do these two identities coexist and how do I honor each aspect of who I am? And so it's really interesting. I loved the book process. I enjoyed it thoroughly every step of the way. It's what I want for every author, which is why I was talking to you ahead of the show of like, how do we do this in a peaceful pursuit that like brings joy to your life and your readers' lives? And so I love that. Maybe another book in the future, but like right now, I'm just really enjoying life.
Yeah, kudos to you. And it's so obvious. It's contagious.
Yeah.
You're vibrating on a different frequency right now. And you so much going on. And you do so much on your plate too. And I love the word that you use right there. And it's something that's really become big to me is the word peace,
Yeah.
right? Like when I
Yeah.
think what success is, and sometimes it changes based upon the season. I know it's many different things, but I think of the word peace. That's a beautiful
I
word.
agree. I agree. I think that's what most people are battling is lacking peace in their lives. And, one of the reasons why I wrote my book and the way that I wrote it was that I feel like so many people are faking the enjoyment of their life, right? Like even thinking about your journey of like you were so successful to society standards, but you didn't feel it, right? Like how many of us have achieved these big milestones and we get to those big moments that we've dreamt about and we think, this doesn't feel like I thought it would, or is this really it? Like, is this what I worked so hard for? And it's so interesting because I genuinely feel so awake to my life and like the blessings of it. Like, there's not a day that goes by where I'm just not like, wow, this is incredible. And I feel like I want people to stop faking the joy in their life and to truly experience that. And the only way to do that is to get honest with like, what is success for me right now? What is success today? Am I being successful today? Because I think a lot of us are waiting to start our lives, right? We're waiting to live our lives. We're waiting for the legacy when we don't realize like the legacy is unfolding right now as you listen to this show. Like, and so it's just this powerful call to us of like, invite in contentment. Contentment doesn't mean complacency. Contentment means joy in the moment and being awake to that. And I think we've confused the two and said that the moment that I'm content, the moment that I feel that peace is the moment that I'm done achieving. And that's simply not true.
Yes, I love you. So there's that. There's so many things to unpack right there. And something that I've really worked on and have figured out is that it's not 20 minutes from now or 40 minutes ago. It's this moment. And
Yeah.
mindfulness has become the portal to expansion for me. That's where all the connecting, the rapport, the magic happens. Just me and you. How can we add value, deliver the best conversation possible? And you mentioned something before, and it's like, so many people think, and I know because I used to be this cat, so I have contrast that once you get the thing, then you'll
Yeah.
have that lit soul, like the watch, the money, the relationship, whatever the case may be. Once I get that, then I'll feel lit up or at peace. But that's false, right? The
Yeah.
whole irony is first you activate the lit soul by getting
Yeah.
into alignment, and then you end up manifesting all the things that you thought you needed to get that lit soul just by
Yeah.
going into alignment now, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we often joke like I don't need anything and the fact that I could have anything that I wanted makes me not want anything, right? Like when the pandemic hit, we lived in a town of 1,200 people. The nearest Target was 2.5 hours away. We lived up on Lake Superior in this tiny cabin in the woods. And when I look back at that year, while it was a year of immense privilege and a lot of challenge for so many people, it was a year where we really stripped back what we thought was necessary. And we asked ourselves, if Amazon Prime is going to take 5 days, do we really need it right now? And it's just one of those things where it's like a lot of the things that we think add joy don't. And I think that the problem is that there's a king of money being the currency when really time is our currency. Like if we want to have a full life, like we have to treat time as our currency. And when we start to do that, a lot of times the money will follow.
Yes, most of the times, in my opinion,
Mhm.
it's energetic exchange is a
Yeah.
byproduct. One thing that I started doing like very recently, and I
Yeah.
just this second while you and I were speaking, depending upon what you believe in, for me it's God. I imagine you have something or the
Mhm.
creator, whatever the case may be. Oftentimes, like when I'm really in a moment, like I am
Yeah.
right now with you, I just thank you for this moment. And I do it
Yeah.
all like my fiance and my dog. Like I don't care about anything else, just being so present in this moment. And that's where the magic happens. And when you begin to stack those in each activity, whether it's your workout, the sauna, the business, a team meeting, the course,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, you begin to stack those, everything compounds. And then it,
Mhm.
it doesn't take so much time. It takes alignment. Once you do that, you look back a few weeks later and you're like, whoa, we have a ton of momentum right now.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I feel like gratitude is such a huge role in also the culture of like more, more, more. And it's like, when is enough enough? And it's so countercultural to act that way. But like, I feel like it's something where we need to invite in boundaries that kind of protect the enoughness of the moments that we're in so that these achievement based striving tendencies that so many of us have are allowed to rest and we can rest without guilt. And so it's like, a lot of times when we're prone to want to quit, it's like you just need a nap or you just need to like log off. Like just like your computer needs a restart, you need that too. And I feel like when we're awake to like the gratitude in our life, it also allows us to acknowledge like, well done, good and faithful one, go rest. And I think that that's what so many people are missing is it's always on to the next thing, always moving so quickly that you're missing where you are and like the blessings that you are experiencing that you once prayed for.
Yeah, that's why you have to fall in love with the journey, right? As I
Mhm.
said, marry the process, divorce the outcome. And just to
Yeah.
be clear, absolutely set the intentions, have the audacious
Yeah.
goals, the whiteboard, the New York Times bestsellers, all that, but then divorce from that and fall in love with what can I actually do today to move the
Yes.
needle, be in the moment, enjoy that. And then that ends up stacking. And also it releases like the expectations or the pressure of having to hit that. And it doesn't make it seem so far away because you're just worried about what you can actually do today.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one last one before we land the plane. I know you speak about this, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs in this space, and I imagine this is a struggle for a lot of people, especially as you tend to reinvent and spread your wings. Maybe you don't have so much in common with some of the people from your past. How do you make friends while you're a busy entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, I've done an episode on this.
I know
It's
you
it's
did.
interesting because that is an area that I have to be so intentional in. We live in a small town, so our town is 10,000 people. I've only ever lived in towns this size as an entrepreneur. So I've never lived in a big city. I've never had anything like that. And it's even interesting having young children because I'm like, now I want to find like mom friends who are in this same season who talk about sleep training and schedules and things. And so I've had to be super intentional and put myself out there to connect with people. And it's really interesting because I am an introvert. So I actually
Same,
refuel alone. Like I love my alone time, but I
same.
stay very connected. And so a couple practices that I do that I would encourage like all of your listeners to do. So one thing I do every day is I believe that God puts people into my mind and my heart for a reason. And so if I am thinking about someone, even like today was a really random person that I used to work out with like 5 years ago, she popped into my brain and I just sent a quick text that said, "No need to respond. I just want you to know I'm thinking of you today. If you'd love to share how you are, I'd love to hear it, but I just want you to know that you are loved." And I try to reach out to 3 people a day and just check in and remind them, like, "I'm here, I'm thinking of you." And I also do kind of in the vein of "How are you really?" where I'll ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, "Where are you at today?" so that I can support you accordingly. Because I think oftentimes we show up where we expect people to be. So we expect, "Craig, you must be a 10. Your book is coming out. It's amazing. There's so much momentum. You just ran this amazing race, all these things." And maybe you're having a really crappy day, but now you're trying to meet that 10 energy. And so giving people the capacity to say, if you're a 10, I'm here to celebrate with you. And if you're a 2, I'm here to show up for you, gives people the space to answer the question, how am I really, without the preconceived notions that we might put on other people. And so I love to be really intentional with my friendships, with my relationships. I love to reach out to people without needing or expecting anything in return. And I think that that has been a huge part of my success, is just because I genuinely want to show up for people and I want to be there and I want to give. Even when we got on the call, I'm like, what do you need? How's the book launch? What can I do? Here's the loom I recorded, like all these things. And
Yep.
like, I just think showing up with service is something that is a lost art, but it is something that will really enrich your life.
100%. And I want to let the listeners know, like we were talking for a while, Jenna, before we record, and we just crossed paths, and hopefully it's just the
Yeah.
beginning of friendship, which I imagine will be. But she was so open and gracious with some of her experience that I might not have yet, and that's really special. Some of the things that you just mentioned right there, I imagine you're very selective with who you allow in your bubble of serenity. You really protect your energy. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, same. The title of your book, How Are You Really? It's so funny because when you ask someone, how are you? You don't get
Yeah.
the right answer ever.
Uh-uh.
Right? Oh,
Mhm.
amazing. Unbelievable. Thanks for asking. Never better. How are you really? And I even like to ask a third time. Okay. Between us, how are you really? Well, since you
Yeah.
asked, right? They
Yeah.
let it roll
Cut the
out.
fluff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I know the listeners are gonna fall in love with you in 2 seconds in case they weren't already familiar. How did they get access to this course? How did they get involved? So growing their email list and understand what that entails.
Yeah. So if you are not totally sold on the idea of email marketing, or you want to see how this could work for you, I have a totally free 1 hour training. I will not waste your time. You will get results even if you just take action off of what you've learned there. And it's called From Zero Subscribers and Zero Strategy to an Engaged Email List That Lasts. I will walk you through how it works based on your business type, what to send, what to say, how to do all of it. So you can save your seat for that. It's absolutely free at jennakutcher.com/CLS. It's jennakutcher.com/CLS. And then if you want to just connect in general, which I would absolutely love, you can find me anywhere online, jennakutcher.com, Jenna Kutcher on Instagram. And my podcast is the Goal Digger Podcast, which I would invite you to subscribe to. If you love this show and you love Craig, I feel like you will love the strategy, the life, the growth, the personal development. All of that is included in the Goal Digger Podcast. And it's a really inspiring show. So I hope you come over there and listen too.
Hell yeah. And we're going to put all that in the show notes. And guys, I want to be very intentional with what I say next. Jenna gives out so much value, and a lot of it is free. One of the many things I love about her podcast is awesome. And one of the ways that I think that it separates itself from other people that do similar stuff or in the entrepreneurial space, it's very educational. Like if you listen to one of Jenna's episodes, you're extracting tangible tools that you can apply immediately. And then obviously the book is a classic too. So
Thank you.
grateful. So much fun today. Just the beginning. Hang out for 1 second. I want to connect with you after. I
Yeah.
want you to know you the definition of perspective, authenticity, and curiosity. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thanks for having me. This was a treat.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's stay connected.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know. Watch that video that I sent you. And if you have any questions, let me know. And then I'll fire off an email just to my chat person to even just help you set up like a book one.